I'm Kath and I provide support to the Orkney project management team for Community Energy Scotland.
I'm Evelyn Lee and I'm an assistant project manager for Community Energy Scotland.
Hi, I'm Charlie. I'm a development officer at CES and a health and safety expert.
Hi, I'm Annabella and I'm an Innovation Development Officer for Community Energy Scotland.
Hello, and thanks for tuning in to this short film produced by Community Energy Scotland. What is flexible energy, and can it really help your community? Here in Orkney, we produce more electricity than we use. Some of the electricity generated comes from community-owned wind turbines. This means that as well as contributing to Scotland's goal of net zero carbon emissions, turbines, like some of those across the Orkney Islands, can also sell their electricity back to the grid, generating income for the local communities. So, Orkney's carbon footprint and community income is sorted, isn't it?
Unfortunately not, Kath. If we can't use all of the renewable electricity when it's generated, then we have to send it across to mainland Scotland to be used there. And sometimes we can't generate enough renewable electricity, so we actually get it sent from mainland Scotland. And then there's other times when even that isn't enough, and so we have to burn diesel in the generators at the Kirkwall Power Station. So not all of the electricity coming out of Orkney's sockets is actually renewable, unfortunately. So the problem is that we have to use our electricity at the same time as we produce it. So a really simple example is if you think of one house and one wind turbine and they're connected to nothing else, then if there's nobody in the house, even though the wind's blowing, the wind turbine can't produce any electricity because there's no one to use it. And then the other times that can happen is that the person in the house maybe wants a cup of tea, so puts the kettle on, but there's no wind, so there's no power, so unfortunately no cuppa. Now that's why we're actually connected to the electricity grid, and it connects us to lots of different generators, but unfortunately not all of those generators are actually renewable and a lot of them use fossil fuels. So this is where flexibility can help. Flexibility can help us maximise the amount of renewable generation we use, but don't worry, you don't have to be bendy or even change your behaviour all that much. So flexible demand is all about changing when we use electricity without necessarily changing how much energy we use. So we can change our behaviour if we want, so we could maybe put our washing machines on at a different time when there's lots of renewable energy. Another way is to actually use energy storage and computer programs. So the programs actually tell the energy storage devices to charge up when there's lots of renewable generation, and then they can discharge into our kettles and our laptops, say, when there isn't enough renewable generation. But only when the electricity users actually agreed to beforehand. So don't worry, you're not going to get a phone call asking you to stop playing PlayStation or stop cooking tea or even turn the heating off. But one type of energy storage device is actually storage heaters. So these have bricks in them that can be heated up using electricity when there's lots of renewable generation, and then that will keep that heat stored in those bricks until you need it, for maybe up to a day or so that you can stay nice and warm. Another example is with electric vehicles. So you might be charging your electric car up, but there isn't very much renewable electricity, so we might stop the car charging just temporarily until there's more renewable electricity, or if you actually need it really soon, maybe keep charging it. So in this way, flexibility, so turning things on or off, or delaying when we turn things on, can actually help us maximise our renewable generation. It can help us reduce our energy bills by using more electricity during the off-peak tariff times, and it can also help us to balance the national grid, so getting that balance between generation and demand and making sure that matches. Now all of that can happen at lots of various scales. It can be happening in your own house, it could be happening in the island that you live on, or the group of islands, or even the whole country. Now the way that this electricity is ground is through sort of like overhead lines or cables in the sea or in the ground. But they can only carry so much electricity at any given point. So in Orkney there is an active network management system which measures these cables and overhead lines at various different points, and if they're getting full then they'll curtail or sort of reduce or turn off wind turbines so that those cables aren't getting full. And that's just so they don't overload and melt, and it's keeping it all safe. So that's really good, and without the active network management system we wouldn't be able to generate as much electricity as we already do in Orkney. But if we're turning our wind turbines off, then we're not making the most of our renewable resources, and that means that we're not making as much money from selling that electricity, and therefore communities that are selling that electricity aren't able to buy all of the things or do all of the things that they want to. So there are a number of communities in Orkney with wind turbines that face this issue, although thankfully this doesn't happen to the turbines owned by the North Ronald Sea Trust. So flexibility is really helpful, and it can help us do lots of different things. So it can help us increase the amount of local generation we're using. It can help us reduce the amount of renewable generation that's being turned off, and therefore increase the income for some communities that have those turbines. It can also possibly help us reduce our energy bills and reduce our electricity's carbon footprint.
And that's not all. A huge portion of Orkney's carbon footprint comes from the use of fossil fuel resources. We use to power our transport network and provide heat to our homes. We emit carbon in all sectors of Orkney's transport network, from driving your family car, catching the bus, using it intermittent plane service, or even using a ferry in between islands. And in our homes it's no different. We may use coal, wood or gas to provide heating or to power our cooking. One such way is through the adoption of electric vehicles, or as the kids call them these days, EVs. EVs in Orkney are charged by an electrical grid which sources the vast majority of its generated electrical energy from renewable resources such as carbon-free wind power. As we expand the use of EVs and the installation of charge points across the whole of Orkney, we also increase the electrical demand on the grid, but simultaneously we also improve the grid's flexibility. The same thing can be applied in folks' homes to heat them. Currently they may use coal, wood. We can instead use air source heat pumps or heat batteries which use electrical renewable energy. Already on a number of projects in Orkney, such as HSO and Smile, we're utilising curtailed energy from the Rousey wind turbine to power air source heat pumps and heat batteries in people's homes.
The ReFLEX Orkney project is offering the people of Orkney a new way to use energy for electricity, heating and transport. With innovation and flexibility at its core, ReFLEX aims to demonstrate how an integrated energy system could deliver 100% renewable energy to households and businesses in Orkney. The project's integrated energy system will interlink electricity, transport and heat technologies into one overarching system. These flexible technologies will include battery storage, electric vehicles, smart chargers and smart meters, which will be available through the project. On top of these, ReFLEX Orkney has introduced an energy tariff for Orkney residents, supplied by 100% renewable electricity. We hope once operational, the integrated energy system will help to maximise Orkney's renewable generation, reducing our reliance on fossil fuels and lowering our carbon footprint. The project is also supporting innovative solutions for community transport by deploying electric vehicles and charge points across some of Orkney's outer isles, as well as setting up an electric car club at the Kirkwall Pier and in Stromness. Community Energy Scotland are at hand to help to support any community group interested in getting involved in ReFLEX. We are passionate about working with communities to help them contribute towards Scotland's net zero targets. We want to ensure there is something available for everyone in Orkney through the project. So, the first step is to join this world-leading carbon reduction project is to sign up as a ReFLEX Orkney member. We encourage you to get in touch with the ReFLEX Orkney customer engagement team. They will work with you to help you understand how you use electricity, heat and transport, and to explore how ReFLEX can help.